see, so we'll jump back to the beginning of the business, and we'll go to item I, which is an update from our city attorney regarding the Parks and Recs rules and implementation of a policy.
What I've handed you is what I believe to be the relevant state law, and the other 2 pages are basically the rules I believe that you were considering perhaps adopting, equal to or exactly like the Parks and Recreation. I met with the city manager, and I've gone over this, and I will basically go over it with you the same as I did with the city manager. In conclusion, I believe that these rules would be contrary to the Open Meeting Act, and I'll take you through my reasoning. Okay. The first page I gave you, look at 15.263. I've underlined certain things which I think are relevant, and the first thing is all persons shall be permitted to attend any meeting. And then the next sentence, the right of a person to attend a meeting includes the right to tape record, to videotape, to broadcast, etc. the proceedings of a public body at a public meeting. And the exercise of this right shall not be dependent upon the prior approval of the public body, and the public body may establish reasonable rules and regulations in order to minimize the possibility of disrupting the meeting. I've done research on this. I can't find any cases that specifically refer to these type of rules. The cases, though, are pretty clear that when interpreting this, you should try to liberally construe this to encourage openness, etc. So I am liberally construing these with that in mind. That is to say, if you're not precisely sure, you should fall on the side that the meeting should be open and less restrictions. Okay. I did not and have not researched the idea whether or not the I think it's Parks and Recreation is what we're talking about. The Parks and Recreation Committee is a public body. I just assumed it was. At first I assumed it's a subcommittee, if you would, of the city. I'm assuming it was created by resolution or motion. Again, I haven't researched, gone through any old meetings or minutes to determine that. I secondly understand. I also assume that they are appointed by the city commission or the city manager. I've also assumed that their function is to study parks, recreation in the city and make recommendations to the city council for your either action or inaction, and they do so by making motions, and those motions adopt certain recommendations, which, for lack of a better way of saying it, effectuates public policy if you adopt them. So I think liberally construing this, I think they're a public body. If they're not a public body, there's probably no reason for them to meet or exist, I guess. This is a very general, all-encompassing law. Okay, the first rule, if you look at the last page, number 1, audio and video recordings may be, and these would be rules, I believe, that would be adopted by you, or you were thinking of adopting them. Audio and video recordings may only be taken via fixed freestanding stationary mics and cameras. And for the life of me, again, if you go back to the law, you can only establish rules that, number 1, are reasonable, but even more importantly, that are established in order to minimize the possibility of disrupting the meeting. And I, for the life of me, couldn't see the relationship between a fixed mic or camera and one that isn't, in terms of the difference between the two disrupting a meeting. And again, I think at least as I understand, something, you know, it'd be like a tripod or whatever versus somebody with a camera turning him. And I base that essentially on my observations of Mr. Albert and the Globe and others actually turning around taking pictures, and it doesn't seem to be very disruptive. At least I don't see any disruption in that function, and I don't know how anyone can make the argument that taking pictures without a tripod or whatever somehow could lead to the possibility of disrupting the meeting. At least in the last, I don't know how many years it hasn't, so I think that excludes it. That's my reasoning for that. The second, and again, I do want to point out that as it says here, the right of a person to attend a public meeting includes the right to tape record, to videotape, to broadcast. And I read the word include to be not an exclusive list. Because if you looked at that as being an exclusive list, just taking a still picture with a camera is not listed here. That wouldn't be a tape recording, a videotape, broadcasting live, or telecasting live. But again, you're supposed to read this liberally with the idea of making it open and the public can see what's going on. And if you could videotape this